Hello you all and welcome to my lab. I have currently finished the renovation works on the laboratory, and because an overwhelming majority of you wished for a lab tour, I gave my best to finish it as quickly as I could. So lean back and enjoy. The first thing I did is painting the fume hood with a special paint which reflects less light. This will improve the quality for the videos in the future. As you can see, my fume hood is a simple construction made from wood and acrylic glass. So now let's go through all the drawers where I store most of my glass in. In the first one I'm storing attachments used in distillation. For example, you can see a standard cut 14 distillation spider plus different connection pieces between flasks and condenser. In the second one I'm storing all my condensers, which I have sorted by the number of the standard cut, beginning with 14 and ending with 50, which is used in the Soxhlet apparatus. In the upper drawer I'm storing my thermometers, plus some small things which aren't really important. And before I forget it, dangled in between the condensers is a vacuum vigorous column, which I got from my grandparents around 2015 for Christmas. Up until now I have used it quite a lot. Thanks again, best present one can hope for. Now let's have a look at some of my round bottom flasks. In the bottom drawer I am storing everything with 1 liter plus in volume. The middle drawer is used for everything between 250 and 1000 milliliters in volume. Followed by my gas washing adapters, different glass connectors and gas outlets. There are some real beauties in the bottom drawer. Like for example a double-walled reaction vessel. It has a 45 standard cut at the top and a 29 by 32 in the bottom. This allows the insertion of a draining valve in the bottom, which is quite handy. Sadly I can't really use it due to the lack of a way to pump a tempered medium through it. Another piece of equipment I also like a lot is this GDR made 1 liter flask. The special part in it is the embedded heating coil. This flask is quite handy in distilling larger volumes of liquid with a medium to a high boiling point. One such liquid could be water to produce distilled water, or acetone to improve the quality of technical grade acetone to something more usable in the lab. For both applications I recommend the usage of a long column filled with rashing rings to get a reasonable purity. But let's move on to one of my not that well sorted drawers. As you can see, I am storing different stuff in here, like distillation bridges, large petri dishes, and those beautiful standard cut 45 2-liter Erlenmeyer flasks. They are pretty handy for larger synthesis, which involve larger chunks of some educt, because you can fit most things through a 45 standard cut. Moving on to the next one, which again is kind of messy, and follows two themes. This is my drawer for separation funnels and special distillation equipment. One example for this is this Anschütz-Thiele attachment, which is very handy in the fractional vacuum distillation of substances, because it allows you to maintain the vacuum while swapping out the collection vessel for the fraction. Another special distillation piece in this drawer is a Dienstag apparatus, which allows you to drive off water from the boiling flask. This is especially handy in the production of ethers, because it drives the ether formation to completion by removing the water. The next drawer isn't special. It only contains gas washing bottles and addition funnels with and without pressure equalization. Now we are nearly done with the drawers, but I saved the best for last. This drawer contains mostly one neck round bottom flasks, in standard cut 14 and 29. The hidden beauties in this drawer are my collection of Schlenk flasks. These are important when working in protective atmosphere, because they can be easily evacuated and filled with an inert gas through the valve. They all have. One application where they can be used is catalytic hydrogenation. So now I have showed you all the glass in the drawers. I hope you enjoyed it so far. As you may have noticed, I'm using another cutting software. Feel free to write me a comment whether you like the new style or not. By doing so, you help me improve my videos to your likings. Now, let's move on to the glass closet and the shelf where I'm storing the other things you need for the maintained operation of a lab. Some very basic glassware I haven't showed you yet is measuring equipment like these measuring cylinders and the volumetric flasks. I store them next to my glass beakers, which can be used for nearly everything and are standard in every lab. Right below them we have the Liter flasks with standard cut 29 by 32. They are useful when you're too lazy to set them an oil bath, because with their flat bottom the heat transfer works quite well. In the bottom we have larger measuring equipment, my biggest beaker and the bottom of a glass reactor. Sadly, I broke the lid, which is a shame, because in many situations it would be very helpful to have such a wide opening to your vessel to insert and remove larger objects or crystalline masses. So, if one of you is a gifted glassworksman, you could really make a hobby chemist happy by repairing that one. Without further ado, let's get to the shelf, but I have to say it's a bit messy in there. We are starting with storing vessels made from plastic and glass, followed by stoppers and clamps in all different standard cuts. In the back you can see my old trusty mortar, which is in use since the beginning of my lab. Next to it is the vacuum filtration equipment and simple plastic funnels. This is followed by a whole lot of nothing. Glass funnels and old chemicals from a Cosmos chemistry kit, which got me addicted to hobby chemistry. In the end of this row, I am storing all Liter flasks, which have no ground joint. Below them is equipment I'm using a lot with the pyrolysis oil project. A 0.1 accurate scale and 2 racks where I'm leaving my glass to dry after cleaning it. At one point I really want to install a dishwasher into my lab to reduce my work, but this is just dreaming at this point. Standing on the floor are several different containers which I'm using to collect all sorts of chemical waste and safely store it. This is very important because most wastewater in the lab can't be poured down the drain and has to be disposed of properly. While we are already talking about safety, it is mandatory to have an eye wash possibility in the lab. I went with these single-use cartridges which can be bought on Amazon for around $10 each. Another important part of lab safety is a fire extinguisher. I'm using this small one, which is perfectly fine for smaller fires. Keep in mind that some fires can only be put out by using sand. Therefore, I have a big bucket of sand just outside the door. That's it, I showed you everything in my new lab. So it's time to move to my old lab and open some more drawers. I'm calling it my old lab because when I started with this hobby, this is where I first set up my lab. But over the time it became clear that I needed a special room with a fume hood to continue. So nowadays I'm using it to store things and shelter my rotational evaporator. Let's jump right to the first drawer. In here I'm storing heating equipment and a broken UV lamp. Next to it are special vacuum hoses, my heavy-duty full-arm gloves, some more heating equipment and magnetic stirrer heating plates. The problem with them is that each of them has a defect, which I'm trying to repair, but because I'm no electrician, I have failed till now. Again, if one of you guys knows how to repair these things, feel free to write me a comment and we may get them running again. Now I want to show you my masterpiece, the heart of every well-equipped lab. My rotational evaporator. I will only show it shortly because there will be a video just on the rotational evaporator itself, which will explain its usage and how I got this marvelous piece of technology. But as a short spoiler, I can tell you that the people working at Heidolf are just amazing, nice, friendly, and everything I could ever wish for. As you can see, there's quite some infrastructure needed to keep a lab fully functional. And over the time there are always things that break or places in the lab that need to be fixed. And buying new chemicals can be quite expensive. So if you like to support the channel and the continuous production of videos like this one, you can support the lab via Patreon. The link is in the video description. Again, I want to focus on the matter of safety, because it is especially important with the hobby of chemistry. Chemicals can, if handled wrongly, cause long-lasting or even irreversible damage to your eyes. Therefore, I have one of these eye washes in every room I am working in. Getting chemicals into your eyes is no joke, and $10 are nothing compared to going blind. So if you have a lab yourself, buy an eye wash and place it near to where you are working. I also want to emphasize the importance of always wearing some sort of eye protection, like goggles or a face shield. Never ever take off your eye protection while you're still in the lab. Seriously. A last thing to consider is buying a gas mask, but keep in mind that you must have the right filters for the chemicals you encounter. Secondly, it is important to know that gas mask filters, once removed from their packaging, are only good for a certain amount of time, so rather use fresh ones. A thank you goes out to my Patreons, Mohamed, Nikolai Kovalev, Tuesday Weekend, and Esra Nugroho. Have fun and do not kill yourself.